The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello there and welcome to the show, special show on the Square Ball Podcast today. Dan with you, with Michael and a special guest from Andy's Man Club, Andrew Greenway. Are you the Andy?
I'm not the Andy, no.
Is that true, or is that just what you tell people? Are you like one of those body doubles for Saddam Hussein?
It's remarkable how often I do get that, though. Many of you will be aware Andy, unfortunately, was a young man who took his own life coming up towards, just over 6 years ago. Andy's Man Club is named in his honour. Andy was a young man that, at 23 years old, just appeared that, he was enjoying his football, enjoying his weekends out with his friends, and one day, without any sign, signal or warning, he took his own life.
I never knew that. I said I didn't know the backstory to Andy's Man Club, so because that now feels really insensitive. But tell us about it as an organisation, because I don't really know much about it, but it is one of the charities that we're raising money for on the Gary Speed sponsored walk that's coming up at the back end of May. So that's how it came about then. Was it a group of friends who kind of got together and...
It was Elaine Roberts and Luke Ambler. Luke Ambler, the former Leeds Rhinos prop, some of you might be familiar with Luke, who are Andy's mum and brother-in-law. They were of the opinion that if Andy had had somewhere to go to talk about his issues rather than to take the steps that he had done, we're fellas, we know all too well the stigma that exists around men talking about their feelings and the problems and their issues and one thing and another, and how difficult that can be to do. They were of the opinion that if he'd have had somewhere to go and talk, it's likely that he'd still be here. So that's what they set about to try and achieve. Andy's Man Club's quite unique in how we work, in that we now have over 100 clubs across the UK. It started from one in Halifax that had 9 guys walk through the doors on the first night, to now having 100 nationwide with nearly 2,000 guys walking through the doors. It's really easy to get along to go to those as well. We try to strip back all the bullshit, all the red tape, we just try to make it really easy for guys to get through those doors and talk. So there's no referral, no registration, no signing in, no cost, and you don't even have to speak.
So you just walk through the door, sit down.
Yep.
And that's it.
Simple as that.
That's brilliant.
And you work for them now, but you initially, your first contact with them was one of those guys just walking in.
It was, yeah. Yeah. Bloke of, I think at the time I was about 32, 33. Had gone through life believing, the stereotypes, the strong silent type and the stiff upper lip and all that was the way to go about it, following the examples that every other bloke I suppose was showing to me. A couple of situations occurred in my life that I just bottled up and didn't speak about at all. Things like losing my dad, things like, myself and my wife had lost a child in pregnancy, things that I just literally 100% spoke to somebody about once and then just put in a bag and I'll deal with that later, I'll deal with that when, the time comes right. And it started to all get on top of me. So I decided to, the first instance came from a walk and a talk with my brother. My brother, two sort of fellas of not too a dissimilar age who have followed that example for life. We normally find ourselves talking via text every single day, and we normally talk about beer, women, football and music. We don't talk about feelings or emotions or any of those sort of things, or we didn't do. Until one day we went out for a walk and I'd, laid bare a couple of things to him on that day. He'd laid bare a couple of things to me, and as a result of that, I thought, right, well, that's it. I'm sorted. I've talked about it now. I don't have to carry on talking about it.
He's dealt with. That's the
yeah,
point.
Exactly. Yeah. It's okay to talk, but you only have to do it once. Yeah. And was of the opinion that, that's me sorted. I can, again, put it to one side and crack on with life. Until, again, a couple of months later, it came to the fore again, probably even worse than it had previously. So I decided to walk through the doors of Andy's Man Club. Again,
what was it that kind of made you aware of it at that time? A couple of months down the line, was it just the sense that something wasn't right, or?
It was the sense that something was right. It was the sense of him talking to me again and saying, "Come on, crack on. You need to go and do something. You need to go and talk to somebody." I'd become aware of Andy's Man Club through, again, I'm a rugby league fan, so Luke being a rugby league player at the time, I thought, well, do you know what? If that big, however 18 stone prop, I'm probably doing him a disservice there, sorry Luke, but if this big rugby playing fella can talk about his thoughts and his feelings, then surely I can. And it just sort of normalised it for me a little bit and sort of thought, well, it can't be as daunting as I'm thinking it's going to be. I've already spoke to our kid when we went out for a wander. Surely it's it's not going to be.
So you had an awareness that something didn't feel quite right and you probably needed to do something about it, but in your mind there were hurdles there. You thought, I can't do that. Yeah, that's too big a hurdle to overcome. Even
when I was walking through the doors of Andy's Man Club the first night, I was walking through the doors going, you talk and join in and see how it works, but don't tell anybody why you're here. Still, even though I knew that what it was being portrayed as, you don't. There's no judgment. There's no, what's said in there stays in there. I'm walking in there thinking there's going to be lads that know each other that sort of nudging each other, going, "Fucking get a load of this fella here." And as soon as I walked through the doors and started to see the session as it worked, showed to me that actually it doesn't work like that, and you can talk and you can be free and you can be open. And that one night, I was one of the fortunate guys that as soon as I walked through that door, talked, opened up, it actually changed my life from that moment on. And I went from being that fella that thought that carrying all this baggage around me was the way to deal with it, to actually thinking, no, actually, do you know what, I'm going to talk, because that has done me some good and it makes me feel amazing.
What was it that made you think that actually I feel comfortable in this environment? Because what we're trying to obviously get to anybody who's watching or listening to this is that if you're like that, you're thinking, something's not quite right, or even if I just fancy chatting to some other blokes, and want to find a, want to say safe space is kind of stigmatized as a saying these days, isn't it? But just a space where I can just go in and feel comfortable and chat to some people a bit like me.
It was a lot of it was the session structure, because the way the session runs is that there's 5 questions. You can talk you can answer the questions if you want or not. Do what you want. There's no signing in, so I didn't have to tell anybody or sort of let everybody know I was going. It was just a case of, right, go along, see what crack is. And from seeing other guys talk about what was going on in their life, the first 3 questions, the first one's always, how's your week been? When I was asked that, I talked out my ass. Said, I've had a great week, not a problem, everything's fine. Yeah. How often do we do it? You walk down a corridor, so many times I do go, hi mate, you're right, don't even stay to listen to what the guy said to you. Yeah. And that was as I treated that question that night. Question number 2 is, what's been one positive from your week? Again, I think I fished for something, made something up. So yeah, well, back in them days, Leeds probably hadn't won, but I'd probably sort of go, Leeds get 11 players on the pitch, or something along those lines, and just made this random little positive of my week. But while all this is going on, I'm seeing other guys that are actually genuinely talking and actually genuinely sharing some of the shit that's going on in their lives, and not just that, physically seeing them grow. So they've walked in the room, and I know it sounds contrived, but it's not. That you see these guys with the weight of the world on their shoulders, you can literally see them sort of hunched in the chair, sort of. So actually, when they speak, you can see the shoulders go back a little bit, and they start to relax a little bit. You start to think to yourself, well, if he can talk about it, I can. And that first night, there was one bloke in the room, and he was sat off to my left somewhere, and the stuff that he talked about really resonated with me, and I started to think to myself, well, do you know what? If he can talk about that, which is far beyond what I'm dealing with, I can talk about what I'm dealing with, because it's just a culmination of things, and it's just things starting to get on top of me. It was then hammered home as well by the reaction that every guy was given. Not one of them was judged, not one of them was ridiculed, not one was told to man the fuck up and all that sort of nonsense that as a bloke you assume is going to happen. Every single one of them was listened to and supported and accepted, and it just sort of, by that 3rd question I got, and I just went, right, boom, and started to speak. And then question 4 and 5 change every single week. So some weeks it can be about setting yourself a focus or a target. Other weeks it's about looking at a particular positive in life. Other weeks it's stuff like do your best impression. And I love that one because it's always my Chewbacca impression, because I never need an excuse to do my Chewbacca impression.
Go on then. It's good. It's good. It is good, yeah.
I can't believe I've just managed to get my Chewbacca impression into the square ball. That's lovely.
That's good. So, who goes to these sort of meetings then? Who are the fellas that you see? Is it big guys, little guys, fat, thin, tall, white, black? What do you get there?
Yes.
Everyone.
It literally every single, we're open to any man aged 18 or over. I know the oldest fella that comes to Andy's Man Club, because we don't take any details of anybody obviously, but one of the oldest guys that I know that goes is 93. And it's just like, and he's got mates that are like 20, 30 year old that are sort of like, oh, brilliant, yeah, he's here now. And it's just like, do you know what I mean? If that's the reason why you're coming through the door, because you've got nobody else, brilliant. And they literally talk about every single problem. There's fellas in there who haven't maybe seen anybody from Monday to Monday. And, they come because they've got that camaraderie, they've got that sort of sense of belonging, they've got that sense of, brotherhood almost. To guys that are really literally last step on the road before that's the option that they're taking to take their own lives. And it's just, like I said, to bring that amount of fellas together, talking that openly and freely, it's staggering to see, to be fair.
From speaking openly in those meetings, how long did it take, assuming as, to translate that into, I guess, like your normal life, if you know what I mean? Like, do you start feeling like because you've done it in there, you can then start to be a bit more open and honest with people?
It becomes easier. Don't get me wrong, I'm 5 years down the line now, and there's still occasions where I sort of still bottle something up, or still, but I know that I've got a Monday coming up to actually, right, okay, I've not told the missus about exactly what's happened or whatever it might be, but I'll articulate it in my mind and get it out Monday. So I know that I've always got an opportunity further down the line, even if that situation or that moment in time isn't right to talk about that particular thing, because I've not maybe not got it square in my own mind or whatever, I know that come Monday, I've got an opportunity to get that out and get that dealt with.
And what took you then from being the person speaking in the meeting to working there? How did that take place?
First of all, I became a volunteer. So I started to facilitate one of the sessions, and I actually opened the club that started in Oldham. I was working in Oldham at the time. Halifax was a bit of a ball ache to get to from Oldham because obviously the M62 is a car park. So I thought to myself, well, I need to open one up. So I did that, and that club went from having, I think we had 12 guys walk through the doors on the first night, and the night that I left we actually had 38 guys walk through the doors of it. To see it come from, I think it was 18 months, the period of time that I volunteered in that club, to see the attitudes of fellas in a rough and ready northern town like Oldham. If fellas are able to come and speak about what's going on in their lives in a place like that, and a lot of the places we have Andy's Man clubs are like that. They are the sort of rough and ready towns that you're maybe not expecting the guys to be able to be so open about their issues. And the opportunity then arose for me to be employed by Andy's Man Club. I applied for it, and now again we're nearly 4 years down the line, and here I am.
What sort of a gap do you think it fills then in these towns, in the lives of the men who go there? Again,
we could get down quite a lot of rocky roads on that one. One of the things that we don't talk about in Andy's Man Club is politics. Again, we could find ourselves down a political avenue on that one, I think, which I'll quite quickly deviate away from. It can be anything, so it can be literally that these guys, like I said previously, he's not seen anybody from Monday to Monday, but he knows he's going to walk through that doors and see some mates. It could be that, those guys that are in rooms full of people that are the life and soul of every party that just feel so alone, that as soon as they walk in there, because they know somebody else is there that they relate to, they feel welcomed and they feel part of something. As I said, the guys that walk through the doors of an Andy's Man Club talk about every single type of problem you could ever imagine a fella having, from what you might perceive to be a small, tiny problem to the weight of the world.
And we're social creatures, aren't we, as well? Let's not forget, so many of us go through like our teens and our 20s hanging out with your mates. You might be boozing, multiple nights a week, going out to clubs on a weekend, and that sort of falls away, doesn't it, as you get settled into life. So there's a really obvious social aspect there, isn't there? Like like just having a bit of male company, which you know what it's like. You've got kids, I've got kids. You get home and often you just want to stare at a wall or stare at a telly because it's been a busy day. You might have been at work or whatever. Then you've dealt with the kids. They've gone to bed. It's like, right, okay, I'm just going to sit here now. But then you're also sort of cutting that element of male company out of your life often, aren't you? Because it's hard work, isn't it? It's day-to-day life.
Yeah, those opportunities as well, they don't just happen on a Monday night. So they manifest themselves into things like the walk that you guys are doing. So, the charity events that Andy's Man Club hold that we get guys along to come and join in with, or, our Leeds club, for example, our Leeds Andy's Man Club, I know on a Thursday night they meet at Starbucks on Kirkstall Road and things like that. And just these opportunities to actually get together with fellas, there's five-a-side football matches going on, there's all sorts of things that happen really organically that give those guys massive opportunities to go and do more and more like that, those social aspects of things that just fill their lives.
I think it's one of them things that when you're at school, you've got, for most people anyway, you almost have like a ready-made group of friends, don't you? And then as you get older, it's just of like the nature of your job or whatever, or you might just not actually see that many people anymore. And I guess it's one of those aspects you think it'd be quite nice to have some mates, like just someone to hang around with. If you've not got any focus, like if you don't already have someone you play five-a-side with, or you don't have mates you go to football with or whatever, just having, I guess, some new people to see is, I guess, one of the nice things.
100%. And the relationships that develop, like I said, I know lads that they've met in an Andy's Man Club and they've been best man at each other's wedding, and lads that the bonds that come from the back of that is massive.
And do you know what, a lot of it I think is probably rooted in vulnerability, because all of us at some point we've probably been upset or angry or cried or broke down at some point in our lives. We've all done it. Even the most walled off bloke, ultimately it's there, isn't it? Yeah. Something will happen in your life to trigger that sort of a response. And don't you always feel better after you've made yourself vulnerable, like whether it is to your partner or your best mate or even a stranger? You 100%. Always feel so much better, don't you?
100%. And a lot of the things that the guys that walk through the doors of our club say is that they find it so much easier to do it with a stranger because they know that they're not going to get judged. They know that the next time they go down to the pub, some lad's not going to turn around and go, yeah, you're fucking crying out tonight, or they're not going to get that. They're just going to get, how are you this week, pal? You know, you look like you really struggled last week. Everything all right? You know,
because the foundation of your relationship is being vulnerable with each other,
exactly.
isn't it? Yeah,
exactly.
I think when it comes to speaking to family or as well, like, you might think, well, I don't really want to burden my mum with this. If my mum thinks I'm unhappy, like, I don't want her worrying, if you know what I mean. And whereas this is a situation where you can be like, look, we're all here for a reason, so it's fine to just share it.
It's funny that, because when I ended up in therapy, as I ended up in the sense that I referred myself for therapy like a couple of years ago, and that was when, it would have been when Leeds were getting promoted, and speaking about it to a stranger then allowed me to go away and speak to the people around me and just say, listen, this has been fucked. It's accumulated over a number of years. I reached a point where I couldn't continue on that path and needed to do something about it. Having spoken to the therapist, I now can tell you all, and I reached out to all my mates afterwards because I felt able to talk about it.
It makes that secondary conversation so much easier as well, though, doesn't it? Because you've already, done that thing where you've sort of stumbled over your words when you're talking to the counsellor or the therapist or whoever it might be, because you start thinking, well, how do I say this and how do I say that? So that when you do actually go to talk to your mates, you can say, right, listen, this is what's happening. This is what I've been through. This is why I am doing what I'm doing. This is,
I did all that, yeah.
Makes that secondary conversation just so much easier. The thing I found as well with doing something like that is the amount of mates that, as soon as I put myself out to do something like that, the amount of mates of mine that were ringing me and saying, go for a quick pint, I'm not feeling fantastic. I just need somebody to talk to. And knowing that they had somebody in their life that were open to having those sort of conversations, that's the impact of Andy's Man Club as well. It's not just the guys that walk through the doors on a Monday night. It's people that know, well, I know that he goes to Andy's Man Club, so he's open to having a conversation about how he's feeling. I know I can talk to him.
Yeah.
And the impact of it is so wide-ranging.
And it's just breaking down all those walls, isn't it? Because fucking hell, we're idiots, aren't we? Sometimes as creatures, men. And I look back on my own accumulation of sort of stress and stuff like that. And for me, I was working away, and I was driving 4 hours to and from Newcastle every day. And I realised I ended up feeling like profoundly lonely and sad, basically, because I was commuting so much and spent so much time on my own, and unpacking all that and being able to talk about it and just reach out to my mates was such a game changer for me. So when I said what sort of a gap does it fill, what is it there for? It makes total sense to me.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, the impact of it, and I'm going to go back to that point, in as much as the impact, the people that we get, because obviously working in the office, the people that we get getting in touch now, just saying things like, you've given me my husband back. My kids have still got a dad because he came through the doors of your club. It's not just the blokes that walk through the door. It's his missus, it's his mum, it's his dad, it's all these people that have been positively impacted. And it doesn't necessarily have to get to that sort of stage. It can just be like, actually, finally he's talking. He's back to, he's not just turning into Incredible Hulk every time he walks through the door, because he's, the only way that he can manifest any sort of feeling or emotion is anger.
That's what I got like. I wasn't like angry, but I was just shit to be around all the time.
Exactly. But I think that's the thing for blokes, though, because blokes feel comfortable displaying anger because it's quite socially acceptable for blokes to be angry. Whereas, once you've actually opened yourself up to show that, actually, yeah, do you know what? You stop being that angry, twat. Not calling you a twat, but you know what I'm saying.
I was.
So, yeah, like I said, the impact of it is massive.
Where does it fit in terms of, like, if someone, I guess some people have had not a single chat with a mate, a GP, a counsellor, and this is the first thing they do. Like, is it something that a GP would actually say, would kind of recommend? Is it now part of that mix?
Yeah, very much so. We get guys that have come to us and sort of said that, it might be that, without going down that political slant again, that there's waiting lists or there's, various issues with accessing support. In the meantime, there's these guys here. Go and have a word with these, or, we get doctors that sort of say, maybe you're not ready for that. Go and try these guys. That can be the first step on the ladder to going and getting that sort of support as well. Because
that sort of stuff can be daunting as well, can't it? Like,
massively.
Like, and I remember when I did refer myself for therapy, I didn't really know what else to do at that time. So if I'd have known, like, at that time that Andy's Man Club was there, I probably would have gone along and done it myself. But it felt like such a huge hurdle. But once I'd done it and I'd spoken to him, and it was just so easy. It's like, why didn't I do this ages ago? And if it kind of helps to smooth the path towards just getting any sort of help, even if that help is just the company of other blokes who've been through a similar thing to you, just do it.
Definitely. That's my advice to any man. Just give it a go. And the other side of it is, it's 2 hours on a Monday night. If you go down and it's not for you, what have you lost? Yeah. But you've potentially gained so much.
And the focus of it doesn't sound like the focus of it is like you're going to go in and someone's going to say, well, you need to do this, this and this.
Quite the opposite.
Which I think is what, it's a kind of an understandable reaction a lot of people have if someone says, oh, I've got this problem, someone will go, well, why don't you just do...
Because we fix things, don't we?
Exactly, because you want to set about, and it comes from a good place, but you want to set about fixing it, don't you? If like a mate or a family member or something has got a problem. But it sounds like this is more just like a bit of unloading as much as anything.
100%. You'll get guys that sort of turn around and say, well, yeah, do you know what? I've been there. I've had that happen in my life. I tried this. It might work for you, it might not. But at no point does anybody turn around and say, what you need to do is you need to go to the... Again, we're not there to give advice because we're not professionals. You know, we can't offer any sort of direct advice. We can just sort of turn around and go, this worked for me. I can point you in their direction if you want me to. It's up to you. Take that, take it or leave it. But again, the shared experiences that happen within those rooms. I've seen guys walk through that door talking about things that have happened decades ago that they've been carrying around with them for so long. And the guy sat next to them will go, don't want me, mate. 6 weeks ago, I was talking about exactly the same thing that you're talking about there. And for that bloke to just sort of turn around and go, shit.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Is there any cost then if you want to go along to a session? No,
not
cost.
A penny.
So you don't have to identify yourself. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. There's not a penny's cost.
Nope.
Just get it done.
Free brews as well. Teas and coffees are free. There's normally biscuits. If some bloke's missus is a baker, then you'll end up with, cakes and things like that. Quite often we get support from organisations, Asda have sorted us out and they'd look after us with tea and biscuits and things like that, and Wagamama and things like that took some food up to one of our clubs this week and things like that. So, quite often you get a little bit of a bonus as well that you weren't expecting because you get your tea sorted.
If anyone's kind of on the verge of wanting to go, but maybe they think, like, my problems are not bad enough to warrant this, if you know what I mean, because you've said you get all sorts of other people dealing with, like, maybe serious bereavement type stuff, but then if you're thinking, well, I just feel a bit fucking down. Like, I don't want to put myself on a level with these people, if you know what I mean.
I would say as well, just on that my experience with depression and anxiety, it's really pernicious because it damages your self-esteem as well. So you automatically rate your problem as not as important as everybody else's, when actually, when you get through it, you go, actually, that was important because I've kind of fixed myself now, or I'm trying to, improve myself or whatever. So yeah, totally. They go hand in hand, don't they?
Well, not just that. I think if it's bothering you to the point where you're actually thinking, well, maybe my problem's not as bad as theirs, do what I did. Because like I said, the whole reason that I ended up speaking in that session was because some blokes' problems were 10 times worse than mine were. I thought to myself, if he can talk about that, surely I could talk about mine. So, if it's bothering you, it doesn't matter to what degree you feel it's bothering you, go and talk about it. Go give it a go. It's like I said before, it's 2 hours out of a Monday night. You're not going to lose out.
I think it brings it back to Gary Speed in some ways, doesn't it? Because you looked at his life and you thought, bloody hell, it's perfect. Like, successful, ridiculously good looking. He basically had on paper nothing go wrong, had he? Like, his whole life looked perfect. Yeah. Extremely successful footballer, straight into management, doing really well.
International management as well. Yeah, so
looked on the face of it, really nice, stable family and everything. You just think, like, what was wrong with him? Yeah. It's I think that's why it hit a lot of people, did Gary, because he seemed like he would be almost the last person you would expect it of.
Massively so. I mean, that was my first footballing hero. I had the yellow and blue Thistle Hotel shirt, Speed 11 on back of it. I used to pester my dad to wear Asics football boots because that's what Gary Speed wore, and I can still remember exactly now where I was when TalkSport told me that Gary Speed had died. I was on Manchester Road in Leeds, in Huddersfield, heading towards town, and it was like, what's going on? And then when you found out that it was by his own hand, like,
yeah.
And I think that goes to show, though, that if it can happen to him, it can happen to literally anybody.
I think that it resonated with me that when I had my own problems and the 10th anniversary came around, I was about the same age as Gary Speed, I think, within 12 months. I thought, fucking hell, it's a real wake-up call for how you just got to maintain yourself, haven't you? And I think that's one of those things, is like, even though getting help or sharing your problems or speaking can feel like a massive hurdle, once you've done it and overcome it, it just becomes it can become like part of your routine all the time, talking to your mates, even if it's just a WhatsApp to your pals, just that self-care and that care within your group.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that did quite a lot to actually bring the subject of suicide back out into, areas like sport and football, where it was either a ridiculable, thing about, there'd be the odd joke about lad taking his own life or whatever it might be, or, it just wasn't acceptable to talk about. Then when it happened to somebody that was universally respected throughout the game, even Scum fans like Gary Speed, You know, it's like I said, if that can happen to anybody, if it can happen to him, it can happen to literally anybody. Yeah, like I said, absolutely devastating that it happened to him, because he just seemed to be, as you said, just riding the crest of a wave almost.
So the charity walk that we are doing, really, really pleased to support you, and we're supporting the Samaritans as well, to amazing causes. What will Andy's Man Club as an organisation get out of people donating then?
We're hoping to get two things. The first thing that we'll get, like you said, funds to be able to maintain the clubs that we already have running, and to be able to open new ones to reach out to new guys. The other thing that we hope to get is awareness. So more and more guys become aware of Andy's Man Club. It's like you said, when you were struggling, you didn't know about us. Our hope is that we become something of a household name, so that people do know us, similar to the Samaritans. Phenomenal organisation. The whole reason, or one of the reasons that Andy's Man Club runs the way that we do, is because we didn't want to recreate what the Samaritans are already doing, because they do phenomenal work, and we link in with them so heavily as well. We want more blokes to become aware of what we do, in the hope that more blokes, when they are struggling, just feel normal to go and ask, all right, okay, I'll go and talk to somebody about it. And they just know, right, okay, well, not only am I going to talk to somebody about it, I know where I can go to do so. And they can come through the doors of one of our clubs.
Where have you got clubs then across like Yorkshire? Because people are going to watch this from and listen to this from across the country.
How long have you got?
Well, just give us a rough idea. That regions, how many have you got?
West Yorkshire, obviously, with the starting in Halifax, we're quite well furnished throughout West Yorkshire and all the way out towards the East Coast. As far up as Scarborough, we then go Middlesbrough, Newcastle, etc. We then go over onto the dark side of the hill, if you like. We do have a club in Manchester.
Mordor.
Again, Oldham, Rochdale, Bury, Blackburn, Bolton, not Bolton. I won't say where we've got one, because they're playing tonight. Right, we don't want to mention that name.
Yeah, we were recording on the night of that game, yes, the Thursday game.
So, yeah, all the way out to Liverpool, Wrexham in North Wales, because, again, not too far away from where you're starting the walk. Yeah, we literally try and cover every corner of the country, really.
And hopefully cover more. And it's just going back to what you said before about when you list in those locations, that's a lot of what you might typically class as working class towns, isn't it?
Definitely.
So I totally see that, because you think like, therapy as a concept it almost seems alien to us, doesn't it? It's like it's almost American. It's kind of, I've got some therapist, and it's about middle class.
I was going to say it's quite a middle class thing. Is going to speak
to my therapist.
Yeah, going to get therapy, and also if obviously there are ways into it via the NHS, but if you're doing it privately, very expensive as well. Yeah. Whereas this is, turn up and have a free biscuit.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. And if you get lucky, then some blokes. Mrs. has built baked a Victoria sponge,
which is it's a hell of a good entry point, isn't it? It's that just come on, have a chat, have a biscuit, have a cuppa, and give us a couple of hours. Even if you just sit there,
talk if you want to, don't if you don't.
Yeah,
it's interesting finding that need for it is there in these towns. I think because it's, as you said, it's traditional.
Chin up, chest out,
working class towns. Like you just crack on with it and you just get through it. But actually, when it's there, more and more people think,
and you can see in the political landscape, and we don't need to get into the politics of any of it, but the political landscape indicates a country that's quite frustrated and angry. There's a lot of that simmering there, isn't there? And as people struggle financially, that can have a knock-on effect into other areas of their lives.
100%. And again, just as long as they know that there's something there that doesn't cost them anything, doesn't stand them at anything, again, come through. If you run out of tea bags, come and have a brew in Andy's Man Club. Been before, all right, I can go down and have a brew down there, but you'll get listened to and you'll get accepted, and those issues that you are having, however they've been manifested, come and talk about them.
It means you don't have to listen to Gary Neville on Monday Night Football as well.
Certainly does. Certainly does.
Well, lovely that you came along to join us and just explain about what you do, because I didn't know. I didn't really know much about it. I know what you did as an organisation, but I didn't know the sessions functions or anything like that, so it's been a real eye-opener for me. So thank you. Are you Andrew or are you Andy? Are you trying to separate the two out now?
I'm quite comfortable with Andy, but we've always gone with Andrew on official lines, just to try and take away the issue that you had at the start, where people turn around and go, so you're the Andy.
So Andrew Greenway, your job is Project Development Champion.
That's correct.
So your job is now to keep this rolling and get it into more places.
100%.
And the message is, come along, number one.
Yep.
And number two, chuck us a few quid. If when we're doing the walk, we're doing it for all these good reasons, all the stuff we've been talking about, and if it helps more blokes to open up and just have a chat, then good.
And if you can't chuck us a couple of quid, chuck it a share on social media so that more people might actually look at it and go, actually, what is that?
Perfect, yeah.
The donate address is thesquareball.net/Gary Speed, by the way. It will take you to the donations. So, and as we are in a Leeds United podcast studio, how are we going to stay up? Just to finish on.
Bearing in mind this might well come out after our fate has been decided, so choose carefully.
The Everton game has just kicked off, I think, as we record this.
I should know better because I'm a Leeds fan and I've been a Leeds fan for 30 years. I've got a feeling. I think.
Tell us heart and head then. Give us heart and head.
Stay up.
Both.
I can't see Burnley getting a point.
We're properly stitching you up.
I can't see Burnley getting a point.
Within an hour, this could look, look ridiculous.
I could look like a right twat. A bigger twat than usual, anyway.
Andrew, thanks a million for coming. It's been brilliant.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us in, and thanks for everything that you're doing for us, guys. It means the absolute world to us to have support from so many people across the country, but obviously organisations like the Square Ball that I'm a Leeds fan. I said to you guys today, my Square Ball dropped through the door today, and then I'm here talking to you, and it's just great to see this conversation being normalised in so many different areas, so thank you for that.
The Square Ball Podcast.